Hey guys, so in this video we're basically going to be talking about two specific properties, which are the reference property and which is the scroll property. So let's just go ahead and actually add a heading here, reference and scroll, and then let's give it a class of text minus 5xl just so we have the heading. And now let's go ahead and add a text. So I want this text removed. And let's also go ahead and create a button. So I'm going to create a button. I'm going to give it a class of bg minus blue minus 500, text minus white, and then py minus 2, and then px minus 4, and then click me. Okay, so we have this button now, and what I want to do is when I click on this button, I want this text to be removed. Well, the first thing that you can do, and reference is just such an important property because it basically provides a reference to the elements that you want easily accessible. So for example, if I want a reference of this particular element in Alpine, I can actually just go ahead and say x minus reference, and then I can say, I can give it any string or whatever. So I can basically give it my text or whatever it is that you want. Now, if you want to actually access that, we can just say add click. Very important that we used to do x minus on click, but as you can see in the hints, you can use the add click handler, which is the same as basically the x minus on and then the colon and the click. So just to be quick, we go ahead and do that, and we can now go ahead and add a console.log and then basically print get. How do you actually access these things? You actually say get reference, and then you say my text. And basically this is how you access them. Now, if you actually click it, as you can see, I'm getting this div, and this is my reference to this div. Now, if I want to do something with that div, I can say basically get reference, then my text, and let's say I want to change the inner text of this particular thing. I can say this is going to be Baba or whatever it is. So now if we actually click here, as you can see, the text is replaced. Similarly, if I wanted to just remove it, I can say remove, and I can then click on it to remove it. And this is basically how you do it. One important thing to note is I've added the x minus data property, and I've been establishing that this is really important to define. Now, if we, let's say, go ahead and remove this, and if we try to, let's say, click on this button, nothing's happening. And basically, as I said, like you need to add this property in order to actually define a component scope or tell that this is a particular thing that you need to look at. Tell Alpine to actually figure this thing out. If you don't define it, obviously it doesn't work. So again, now it works, it's all good. A few other things that I just want to highlight quickly in this video. Imagine you actually had a header, and I'm going to give this is some text inside of it. This is my header. Let's just go ahead and actually give it a class of bg minus green minus 400, text minus white, h minus 10, and then flex items minus center. You don't have to worry about the classes. I'm just styling it so you can see it, which obviously you don't. So let's just go ahead and actually see why we don't see it, because I have two class properties applied here. So here we have the header. And what we can basically say is when I actually start scrolling, and let's just go ahead and actually add some multiple headlines here, just so we can have a scroll. So here I have a scroll, and basically I want to say when I actually start scrolling, and when I, let's say, go a particular or take a particular height or scroll a particular distance, I want the header to actually be position fixed or something. So we can do that by saying or by giving the scroll property here, and we can say at scroll.window, and this is basically just going to go ahead and check how some of the scrolling stuff is working and when we're actually scrolling. So I'm going to say that I want to go ahead and I want to console.log window.page y offset. So what that's going to do is actually it's going to give us our scrolling position. So as you can see, it's giving our scroll position. And now I can basically say that if the scroll position is greater than a particular amount. So actually, let's go ahead and create a variable here as well. So I'm going to say header fixed is going to be, let's say, false by default. So let's just go ahead and actually define that. So it's obviously not fixed. It's going to be false by default. And then let's just add a condition. Let's add the condition that if the page Y offset is greater than, let's say, 100 pixels, I want the header fixed property, and let's just go ahead and actually say the header fixed property here. I want the header fixed property to be true, otherwise it can be false. So now if we actually have a look at it, and let's just actually see our header fixed property here as well. We can also do a console.log to see what the property is. So I'm going to add a comma, I'm going to say console.log, and then let's say header fixed. So now if we actually, let's say, start scrolling from the top, so you can see it's false by default, and then when we actually reach a particular screen size or a scroll size, it actually results in true. So I think that's exactly what we want, and I just want to go ahead to my header. Where do we have our header? So here is our header. I'm going to add another attribute to it, and I'm basically going to add a class conditional. And what this class conditional is actually going to do is it's going to allow us to say that if, for example, header fixed is true. So for example, if this condition is true, then let's say do something, which I'm going to go ahead and do here. So let me just go ahead and actually use double quotes on the edges and use single quotes here. So I'm going to say if it's true, it's going to be fixed top -0, and if it is not true, then it's just going to be, let's say, relative. So now let's see what happens. So now obviously it's relative by default, but when I actually scroll down, so now it's actually, you can say fixed, and we can give some other stylings to it as well. We can say width minus full and then left -0, and let's see how that works. So now it's sticking to the top with the fixed classes, and then when we actually move to the top, it's basically relative. So these are the things that I actually wanted to show you in this video. Do subscribe to hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.